Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
Stillman and Company on the 440 Sports Network, presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Today on the program, did anything happen yesterday? Was there any news that came from this show yesterday? Did you see this show talked about anywhere yesterday? Holy crap. We went freaking viral. That's right. Over 1 million views. If you're looking at the stream, we have the tweet up there again. I said yesterday on the program that a source close to Dianna told me that they believe that Dianna and Vrabel were caught by a PI, and the PI was hired by Dianna's husband, but it wasn't about money because Dianna's husband was loaded. That's what the source told me. We put it out there, and we got over 1 million views on that tweet alone. I mean, the first tweet we had when this story broke got something like 600,000. And I remember when it got 600,000, and I was like, holy crap, 600,000 views, 1 million views as far as yesterday's show was concerned. And let me just say this. First off, thank you to everybody out there that follows this program, follows me on Twitter, is a subscriber to the YouTube channel, everything else. Thank you. Because you don't get to 1 million views, and you don't get all the views that we've gotten for the shows that we've been doing. You don't get all of that if you don't have an audience. So thank you. But man, it was a wild and crazy day yesterday on the Dianna front. And I have a broader topic I want to talk about today on the program. Now, I will say this, and I, again, don't necessarily want to let the cat out of the bag here, but Friday shows typically do not draw the numbers that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday draw. They certainly traditionally do not draw the kind of numbers that a post-game reaction draws or breaking news draws, which would make sense. But as I transition from a radio host filling 4 hours a day to a podcaster doing 1 hour a day and giving you kind of the best takes and let's just load it up and go, I learned that, hey, if there ever was a day to kind of mail it in, Friday would be the day that you would kind of take it off a little bit. And I spent a lot of time preparing for today's show. We got a lot of different elements in here. We've got an AI-led PR campaign for Mike Vrabel to get his shit back on track. We've got, I thought, to be one of the craziest things I've seen from a defender of Dianna. We've got, kind of the latest on Vrabelgate and why this story is not going away. But today I really want to focus on kind of the big picture of what I call the insider culture. And so that's what we're going to do. First, though, I am going to tell you about the presenting sponsor of this program. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. If you've got an issue that won't go away in your home, whether it's an HVAC issue or it's a plumbing issue or it's an electrical issue, call Hiller. If there's something you want to do, you want to add vents somewhere for your HVAC, call Hiller. If you want to transition from a traditional toilet to a nice toilet with a bidet, that if we get millions and millions of more views, I will put in this house, I would call Hiller. I love Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. They take great care of my home. They'll do the same for you. As they say, happy you'll be, or the service is free. What they mean by that is they'll get it fixed. That's right. If something's not right, Hiller will get it fixed. They do that all the time. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, Electrical. Proud supporters, the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller takes great care of my home. They can do the exact same for you. Okay. I want to start with this. I want to start with a broad topic today, if I may. And that is insider culture, which has now become pervasive throughout all of our major sports. Because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that are somewhat surprised with how all of this works, or they don't understand how all of this works. And while it's very easy to make a sausage joke with this, there are a lot of people learning how the quote-unquote sausage is made. So let's start there. For years, when I did local radio in Nashville, our midday show, which, let's just call it like it is, and I would say this to Caroline's face, our midday show at times was a very Predators hockey homer show. And I say that with all the love and kindness in the world. And I know Adam would push back sometimes and Caroline would push back sometimes, but it was kind of a homer hockey show. And they would have Elliot Friedman on every week. And when it comes to hockey insiders, Elliot Friedman was the gold standard, still is the gold standard of the NHL and, again, what we call insider culture. Jeff Passan right now is the gold standard for baseball. Sham Charania is that for basketball. And then there's about 8 people that do it for football. I think Pete Thamel's very good as far as college sports is concerned. And so every week in local radio, our midday show would have Elliot Friedman on. Again, the gold standard of the hockey world as an insider. And they would ask him stories about controversial-ish topics. They would ask him about the future of John Hines when he was the coach or David Poile when he was the general manager. And every time it got controversial and they had Elliot Friedman on the program, they'd ask a question about Hines or Poile, and immediately Elliot Friedman would pivot to a 3-minute word salad filibuster. And it used to drive me nuts. Here's Elliot Friedman, the gold standard of hockey insiderdom, and he is talking to everybody in the league, and it's like, Elliot, do you think they're going to fire David Poile as the general manager? Now here's Elliot Friedman, 3 minutes saying nothing. And it drove me nuts because as a listener, I wanted real information, not Elliot processed and packaged so that he wouldn't hurt a source. And yet, I felt like Elliot Friedman would always, when asked about the future of David Poile or the future of John Hines, instead of saying, I'm hearing they need to win 3 of the next 4, I'm hearing the owner in Nashville is not going to fire David Poile no matter what, I'm hearing, instead of doing that, it was always this filibuster of nothing. And that's because Elliot Friedman didn't want to hurt David Poile or John Hines, 2 people I assume he talked to on a regular basis for information. And that's the same across the entire industry, whether it's hockey, football, basketball, baseball, where a media insider is positioned to bring the inside information to the outside. Because the people on the inside who have the information to give, they're like me and you. They don't want negative narratives out there. So what they're not going to do is they're not going to tell any insider anything negative that would lead to a negative narrative about them. And then the last thing that they want is to hear that insider that they feel like they have a relationship with to then be on TV saying they should be fired or they fucked this up. They do not want that. And the insiders know if I go on TV and I start bashing one of my sources, he's not going to be a source for me for very long. And that's why I don't like the term insider info. That's why I never take something that Adam Schefter reports or Ian Rappaport reports or Dianna Russini would report or Elliot Friedman would report or anybody, and I just say, well, Adam Schefter says it, so it must be true. I'm thinking, who told that to Adam Schefter? Because, again, the term insider has gotten completely jangled around. It's no longer what it used to be. Insider info is not insider info. It is not as if there was somebody that is spying on these teams that then can come back and say, Sonny Styles is number 2 on Tennessee's board. No. Insider information is really information that people on the inside are willing to let outside, which quite frankly is the opposite of insider info. And it hit me today when it comes to insider culture. Jim Wyatt, I'm going to use him as an example, because when Jim Wyatt worked at the Tennessean 12 years ago, he was the gold standard, and as far as I'm concerned, for what an insider for a team truly was. There's probably about 10 to 15 people around the NFL that cover an individual team that I would look at and I would say that person is an insider. Their word is gold. Jim Wyatt was that when he worked for the Tennessean. Mary Kay Cabot, who works for Cleveland.com, which is the paper there in Cleveland, she is a gold standard insider. Rick Stroud, who covers the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the Tampa Bay Times and has done it for years, he is a gold standard insider. And there's not a ton of these people left, because the money that newspaper people used to make compared to the money I believe newspaper people are making now is nowhere near the same. And so when Jim Wyatt worked at the Tennessean, I don't think there was a better beat reporter out there. And Jim Wyatt worked for the Truth. And he had relationships, but I don't think that anybody, whether it was the people that were giving Jim Wyatt information, or whether it was the team itself, or whether it was Jim's colleagues at the Tennessean at the time, I don't think anybody would have argued that Jim Wyatt's first responsibility wasn't to the Truth, because it was. I mean, I'm telling you right now, if Jim Wyatt was still the beat writer for the Titans, for the Tennessean, covering the team, he'd know exactly who they're going to pick it for. He would. But now Jim works for the Titans. And that's just a different job. And Jim acknowledges that it's a different job. And he tries to do the job the way that he would have done the job at the Tennessee. And he still goes to the Senior Bowl. He still goes to the Combine. He still goes to the Super Bowl. He still goes to all the away games. He still writes up after press conferences. But it's not the same, and everybody knows it, including him. I mean, I read his mailbag. Hey, Jim, what do you think we should do it for? And I'm telling you, if Jim was with the Tennessean, I bet Jim would know what they're going to do it for. And I think Jim would either tell you what they're going to do it for or would hint what they're going to do it for. Now somebody writes into the mailbag about, Jim, what do you think they're going to do in free agency? Jim, what do you think they're going to? And it's like, yeah, you know, Mike Borgonzi, he'll have some big choices to make. It's like, oh, that's very insightful. And that's not a knock on Jim. That is just a reality of what his current job parameters are. Jim Wyatt acknowledges he works for the team. Beat writer Jim Wyatt was a true insider when it came to the Tennessee Titans. And that takes me to this. The dissemination of league information is very, very important to the entire media ecosystem of the league and to all the shows that cover it. And in 2026, instead of the way it used to be, where every team had one or two Jim Wyatts on the beat every day, multiple relationships with people in the building, knowing the people that confided in you because they trusted you, knowing the people that couldn't shut their mouths because they just can't not talk. Corroborating stories. You have one person in the scouting department say, oh yeah, Sonny Styles is at the top of our board. You better go find two or three more. That doesn't exist anymore. Instead, what has happened, and there are some veterans who are still out there. Mary Kay Cabot is the example that I use in Cleveland. Rick Stroud in Tampa Bay is the example I use there. And I'm sure there's a couple more that would come to my head. Jeff McClain in Philly. I believe he's got that reputation. I don't follow the Eagles. Apparently, there's a lot of people who do like the Eagles that have started to watch his show based on the Dianna talk. But Jeff McClain in Philly, I think he's plugged in that regard. But there's not 32 of those people anymore. And so what has happened is instead of 32 or 64 people that cover 32 teams, and so there's one or two people on the beat of a team that have made the relationships that have, it's really devolved into 6 or 7 people who now are trying to talk to all 32 teams at all times. And that's the problem. The dissemination of league information, which again is very, very important to the media ecosystem, has now somewhat been exposed. It's like Dianna Russini, the impropriety surrounding her and Vrabel has opened this can of worms that I don't think a lot of people inside the industry want to address, which is that insider culture and access is really, instead of access and knowledge, and it's really, this is the truth we want you to tell. Again, I go back to the 6 or 7 people that cover this league as true insiders. Russini, Schefter, Rappaport, Pelissero, Jay Glazer at Fox. And then there's a couple of other people. There's a Jeremy Fowler that, he's not a Schefter or a Rappaport, but he's kind of an insider. There's a Garofolo at NFL Network. He's not Pelissero or Rappaport, but he's certainly a part of it. I'm sure there are a couple others. CBS has Jonathan Jones. He never breaks shit, but I guess they put him on the pregame show. Florio, I guess, is that for NBC, but I wouldn't say Florio is a league insider, though he does get some good scoops. And Florio doesn't get the same kind of scoops that everybody else gets because Florio doesn't do the, hey, I'm only going to say what I'm allowed to say kind of stuff. Or at least that's the vibe that he has. Now, does Dianna Russini sleep with sources for scoops? I don't know. I don't know if it was for scoops or if it was a scoops friendship, professional relationship that turned into hands interlocked on the roof of the bungalow at the Ambiente. I do know she had a lot of Mike Vrabel scoops when he was the Titans coach. And I do know the story, again, that has come up on social media and has really been unearthed lately, that involved Scott McCloughan, the former general manager of the then Redskins, and what his wife accused Dianna Russini of doing over a decade ago. So the narrative and the reason that Dianna had to resign, in my opinion, was that the Athletics customers can't get that out of her brain, this idea that Dianna sleeps for scoops, which, again, I'm not saying she does or she doesn't. I'm just saying that that is what people believed after the Vrabel pictures came out. And I highly doubt that Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport or Albert Breer or Tom Pelissero sleep with sources for info. And yet they're part of the 6 or 7 people in the league who get it. And I think I'd like to know the how and the why them when it comes to Schefter and Rappaport and Breer and Glazer and Pelissero and at one point Dianna, that elevates them over other reporters. Because there has to be something that Adam Schefter is good at that these other reporters either can't do or won't do. And I don't know the answer to that. I think Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport, I think those guys are scared to death of the answer about what is it that makes you Adam Schefter. ESPN can't go 5 seconds without mentioning something you've reported. We all saw the email you sent to the, I believe it was the president of the time at Tampa Bay, the Mr. Editor. Like, what is that? Like, what makes Adam Schefter so special? And I don't know the answer to that. And I guess for me, I would say that I think that's what the insiders are kind of afraid of, is that once people figure out what makes us so special and why we get paid so much money and why we're on TV all the time, everybody else is going to try to do it. Now, again, like I said, I don't think what Schefter and Rappaport are doing is what people assumed Dianna was doing, but I get it. I think one thing I want to be very clear about is the role that Twitter plays in this. The got to push out the information, got to get it out there. It's free agent signing day, and now all these guys are rushing to send out the same tweet 25 seconds apart. And I don't think that really matters as much as we like to make fun of it. So we love to make fun of the fact that on free agent day, Rappaport, Schefter, Pelissero, they all end up with the same tweets. Yes, we go to them on Twitter because they're the ones that break news and we want to see the news, so we all follow them. And then that builds their brand as these insiders. That's the only thing that's good for. Again, these guys aren't making $9 million a year to tweet out, quote, "The Ravens are signing tackle Jared Stillman to a one-year deal," per source. Stillman spent last season on Indianapolis's practice squad and made 3 starts in 2023 for Cincinnati. The deal was done by Caroline Fenton of bullshitagencies.com. Like, that's not why ESPN pays Schefter $9 million. But Schefter has to have those tweets so that people will still say, okay, Schefter's a big newsbreaker. Even again, if it comes out 3 minutes before the team puts out a release. What they need of their insiders is they need them to help guide the show. And that's what this is all about. The role that these insiders play. Let's use ESPN's morning show as an example. They have a panel of like 6 people every morning on ESPN. But they have to have one insider on the show to start the news cycle up. So they bring in Adam Schefter. And then Adam Schefter can either add to the rumor, "Shefty, what is the latest surrounding the Cowboys?" Or Shefty can filibuster for 3 minutes, and then they all just start talking with the panel of former players and former coaches and general managers moderated by Mike Greenberg. And they then sit there and discuss what Schefter did or didn't say. It's almost like a magician's trick, as here comes Shefty. Did Schefter say anything in that 2 minutes? Nope. But let's talk Cowboys. That's why every pregame show has one of these guys. Tell us what the inside scoop is, Bubba. Well, I'm hearing that Green Bay may or may not play Jordan Love at quarterback this week. Back to you. Thank you, Bubba. Thank you for that insight. Terry Bradshaw, what do you think? Jeremy Fowler is on ESPN every Sunday morning on SportsCenter with a notebook of topics to discuss, and he better have something. So if nobody in the league will talk to Jeremy Fowler, then Jeremy Fowler gets up there on Sunday. He's got nothing to say. He's got to get stuff to say, or ESPN's not going to pay him what they're paying him. And maybe this is because I have seen this inside and out. My first experience in the media was when I was doing radio at WKXL in Concord, New Hampshire, and the channel the Celtics were on, Comcast Sportsnet New England at the time, had a bunch of shows, Sports Center-like shows that were Boston-themed shows, and each team had an insider. So Sherrod Blakely was the insider covering the Celtics. Joe Haggerty was the insider covering the Bruins. Sean McAdams was the insider covering the Red Sox. And I'm drawing a blank on who was covering Tommy Curran was covering the Patriots. Tommy Curran, he fits the mold, in my opinion, of a Rick Stroud type. He's a legit beat guy, insider. And I would see them put these insiders on TV. They would introduce a story, and then they would say, and now for the latest, we go to Bruins insider for Comcast Sportsnet New England, Joe Haggerty. Joe, what are the Bruins going to do with the deadline? And I love Joe Haggerty. They call him Hags, but I'm not sure Joe Haggerty had some sort of crystal ball into what Peter Chiarelli and the Bruins were doing. But it was good theater. It was good for TV. So that's why I'm good at always wondering whenever somebody reports something, I don't just assume it's true, but instead of assuming that the report is true, I want to know, who is it that told that person that they could report it, and why is it advantageous to that person that gave it to the insider in order to be able to report? Now, when I was a kid, I remember what the insiders were or who they were. I thought John Clayton, and Floyd used to tell me he and John Clayton were very tight. And he used to say John Clayton has the best information. And John Clayton was perfect for that role because they'd stick him up there on TV, and this little nerdy John Clayton would get on there, and he would be the complete and total professor, and he'd lay it all out. But I never felt like John Clayton was in the bag. Maybe he was, and I just didn't see it. But he never felt that way. Peter Gammons was a baseball insider when I was a kid on ESPN. And I loved Peter Gammons. And I still, again, I don't even know what Peter Gammons is doing nowadays, but I still love Peter Gammons. Maybe I was wrong then. Maybe those guys were in the bag. But instead, it feels like the way information gets out, the way it's disseminated, that does feel like it's changed. And that is now more, I don't want to say quid pro quo, but it is more, I do favors for my friends and my friends do favors for me. The insider needs to be the chief gossiper who's wearing a suit. But in order to get the gossip, you have to be willing to be a resource for those that have the gossip to give, which is a long-winded way of telling you something that you already know. This is all a dog and pony show, the whole thing. Let's use ESPN as the example. So this morning, I watched ESPN's morning show, Get Up, and it started with the headline, Draft Hustle. And Mike Greenberg teased over the images on the TV. The first one was Jerry Jones, but Mike Greenberg said that it might be the most chaotic first round. And they showed a picture of Jerry Jones and John Harbaugh and Jeremiah Love and Arvell Reese. And he said, who's going to do the wheeling and dealing? And we're going to tell you which quarterbacks might be the steal of the draft. And how did ESPN lead their show? With insider Jeff Darlington saying this is going to be a very trade-heavy first round. He thinks there will be 6 trades in round 1. I believe there were 4 last year. Then, once Darlington said that, they wheel over to Mike Tannenbaum and they say, okay, Mike Tannenbaum, what do you think of that? They referenced Mel Kiper's mock draft. It's a show. It is a cadre of bullshit. Mike Tannenbaum doesn't know what the 32 general managers are going to do just because Mike Tannenbaum was once one of the 32. Jeff Darlington has no fucking clue as to how many trades are going to go down on Thursday night. And Mike Greenberg knows it, and Dominic Foxworth knows it, and Adam Schefter knows it, but they're all doing their job because their job is to entertain you. Their job is to keep your attention on sports while there is not meaningful sports on TV for you to watch or for ESPN to show. And I'm going to use this example, again, of the insider trade and how I think it's all bullshit to begin with. This was Jeff Darlington this morning. I like Jeff Darlington. I don't really know Jeff Darlington. One time he had a story about Tom Brady and the Titans, and we got Jeff Darlington on because we had a mutual friend, and we texted Jeff Darlington. And he was like, yeah, I'll come on, and he was nice as hell. That's my experience with Jeff Darlington. I'm not crapping on him. I'm just crapping on the reality of the industry. So this morning, ESPN had a full-blown discussion about the Titans and Jeremiah Love. And insider Jeff Darlington was asked by Mike Greenberg, my sources are telling me no, as far as the Titans are concerned with Jeremiah Love at 4. Jeff Darlington, what are you hearing? This is 1 minute and 11 seconds. And you tell me if this sounds like insider info.
Well, pretty much all of my insiders are saying that's not what I'm hearing. Now, obviously, this is the season of misinformation. But what is your sense about Love at 4 or wherever else he might go up near the top?
I think the reason you're feeling that, Greeny, is this is the ultimate conundrum for GMs and, quite frankly, the ultimate conundrum across the NFL when it comes to the running back position, both in free agency and in the draft. There is this pressure point between teams trying to value running backs to decide the impact they have on their offense, but when you start to play analytics and Moneyball, you also recognize that it's not always worth it to spend the value, whether it's the money or the draft capital, on a position like running back. These are the positions not necessarily premier when it comes to what you ultimately spend in free agency. We're talking about quarterback, wide receiver, offensive line, defensive end. Running back falls well after those. So now GMs are saying, are we willing to go up and spend this on an impact player, or do we instead need to address those premier positions? It is a tough sell because he is a shiny object for these teams. Somebody's going to jump and get him. The question is who?
Immediately, Mike Greenberg turns and goes, Mike Tannenbaum, what do you think? That was 1 minute and 10 seconds of Jeff Darlington saying nothing. But we have to have the insider on the set to set up the discussion so that we can then talk about it for the next 20 minutes. Keep your attention, go to commercial break, have the commercials, pay the bills, and then come back and do the same shit over again. Only this time, we're going to bring in Sham Sharania, and we're going to ask a basketball question. It's a show. It's entertainment. It's not cancer research. It's a performance. And I think part of the reason why this story with Dianna Russini is not going away is because that in and of itself is a show. So when it comes to insider culture, when you people, and I follow them too, but when you follow Schefter and Rappaport and Pelissero and Glazer and Dianna, what you're saying is, I want the info you have that you had to play nice in order to get, that somebody is giving to you, not because that's the inside info, but somebody is giving that to you because they want it out there. What I'm saying is the news that gets funneled to you through the insiders, for the most part, is like somebody's Instagram feed. It's a highlight reel. I've seen people, I know people, I've had people reach out to me about their marriages that are falling apart, which, again, this is going to sound so stupid. I just felt like until I was about 30, everybody just lived and got married and was happily ever after. And now that I'm 36 and a lot of my friends are married and a lot of people that I interact with are married, I am just stunned at how many people are miserable inside their marriages. I say that because I can have somebody reach out to me and tell them about how much they hate their spouse. And then the next day I see a post on Instagram or Facebook. We had the best time. We love each other. It's like, oh, do you? But that's what's getting out to the consumer. We love it. Yes. Yes. Oh, we love it. We just need more information. No, we're only telling you the things we want you to know. Again, that's why when it comes to Chad Brinker, there's all these people that do not want to talk about what Chad Brinker does or does not do, because it doesn't do any favors for the insiders in order for them to put it out there. TDG says, marriage is what you make it, Jared. We got to talk. Don't talk to me. I'll put you in touch with my friends that have reached out to me about their miserable marriages and then post about how great it is on Instagram. But that's why I am always skeptical of insider news. Even if I know the insider and trust the insider, because what the insider gets that he or she is giving you is what somebody traditionally wants out there. Now, again, I don't know what separates Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport from, and again, I'm not saying Nick Suss is doing a bad job. He's not, but I'm just using him as an example. Nick Suss, the local beat guy at the Tennessee. What's the difference between him and Schefter? Will Suss not kiss as much ass? I mean, I keep hearing Jamel Hill say, if that was a man instead of Dianna, I'm like, if that was a man, let me look into the camera here. If that was a man who was having an affair with an NFL head coach, You don't think we'd be talking about that? Again, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but if it's Schefter or Pelissero or Rappaport or Albert Breer or Jay Glazer, and we catch wind that one of those guys is playing footsie with an AFC West head coach, you don't think that's a big story, Jamel Hill? So I don't think they're doing that. And if they did, holy crap, would that be something? But I understand how this entertainment bubble works. It's all a performance. And I think we as a sports society need to understand how insider culture works, and then it's just show. The people who have the information are the teams, and they get to decide who the stars of the show are. And being a star like Schefter or Rappaport or any of these, it's incredibly lucrative. It's incredibly visible. And because of that, people would legitimately kill other people in order to have these jobs. Which is why I am always skeptical of insider news. Because when something gets out, it's because somebody wanted it to get out. Not because they uncovered something with all of their hard work of digging through dumpsters. There's one person in sports who does it. It's Pablo Torre. That's it. So that's the first thing. The insider culture. Here's the second thing. And I don't really know what to say about this, but I do wonder this question. Does it make sense from a business perspective to tell the truth in 2026? And if you wanted my honest opinion, Uncle Jared, I want to know, does it make sense as a media person in 2026 to tell the truth to your audience? I'm going to say no. I know this is crazy because that's how I've built my brand. And if my son wants to get into this, or if Lindsay's nephews, she's got 3, if they say, oh, Uncle Jared, we want to be talk show hosts and podcasters, and we want to do sports, and we want to, I hope that they would all like to do something more productive with their lives. But if they did, I would tell them, at some point, there's going to be a fork in the road. And when that fork in the road comes, one choice is going to, A, be friends with people, but you got to sugar them up, and you got to sugar up your news and your opinions based upon the people that you want to be friends with, coaches, players, executives, owners, you name it. And the other side at the fork in the road is to tell the truth. You're going to piss people off, and you're not going to be friends with players, coaches, agents, general managers. I personally don't have it in me to play the game. And that moment came to me in 2014. I believe it was late 2014. This was the year that Kentucky had an undefeated basketball team that lost to Wisconsin in the Final Four. I was doing local radio in Louisville, Kentucky. And I was working for the ESPN affiliate in Louisville, which was entering into an agreement at the time with the athletic department at the University of Louisville to build out a new Louisville-friendly station. Now, at the time, we didn't have the games, and the channel that did have the games was Cards Radio, but they wanted another channel. So, okay, fine. I didn't agree to that. My bosses agreed to that, but I knew it was happening. And I approached the fork in the road. Kentucky had the best basketball team in the country. Calipari was bringing in the recruits, and Pitino was not. And I said, I go, I want Rick Pitino to start recruiting like Calipari. All we ever do is kiss Rick Pitino's ass about how great he is, and yet Calipari has gotten about 8 recruits who are better than him in the last year. Where are my recruits? Where are my Trey Lyles? Where are my Carl Anthony Townses? Where are my Willie Cauley-Steins and Devin Bookers and the Harrison twins? Instead, Rick Pitino's out here recruiting Akoya Gal. And we had a consultant who was with ESPN at the time. And after we did that, the consultant from ESPN was like, wow, that was good radio. You two were going at it. You guys were talking, driving the storylines. You guys were. And then I got a call from U of L. And they were like, hey, man, we do not like what you said. And that was the fork in the road. And I said to myself, what do I want to be? Do I want to be everybody's buddy? Or do I want to be a commanding talk show host that talks shit and tells it like it is? And I decided I wanted to tell the truth. In hindsight, was that the best decision for me? I don't know. I guess maybe not. So when it comes to news in the NFL, this is my daily job. Unlike a lot of you who are either watching this show as if it's like a trip to the brain refrigerator to get fast food put in there just to entertain you for the next 20 or 30 minutes, or you're listening in your car after a long day work on the podcast, when I hear something, I analyze the analysis. Who's reporting it? Where'd they get it from? Who wants it out there? Is it the truth? Is it a smokescreen? But I also realize that most people don't have time for that. So when Adam Schefter says something, it's like, well, Adam Schefter, he must know. He's got 9 billion Twitter followers. So I try to do the analysis for you and give you my unvarnished opinions, knowing that I'm not going to have the highfalutin friends that I would have if I kissed more ass. But I'm okay with that. I think it's a lot more complicated than, dude, I just got off work. It's a weekend, and I just want to talk shit and hear people talk shit about sports. But I think it's impossible for someone to truly be a legitimate insider for all 32 teams. Because in order to be an actual insider, like Jim Wyatt used to be when he covered the Titans, someone has to have multiple sources in the building, and those multiple sources have to tell them multiple things that they then have to corroborate with other people. And when you're an insider and you're trying to talk to all 32 teams at once, you're probably talking to the coach, the general manager, maybe an assistant general manager, and that's it. And so then the gossip that they give you is the gossip they want out there. And for the most part, it goes unchecked. One story that John McClain loved to tell that Floyd Reese hated John McClain telling. The Houston Oilers had a quarterback by the name of Cody Carlson. He was in between Warren Moon and Chris Chandler and Steve McNair. And in 1994, Cody Carlson was the starting quarterback of the Oilers. And John McClain wrote in the paper what the terms of the contract were. And Floyd goes to John McClain and says, you got the numbers in the contract wrong. And John McClain knows he didn't get the numbers in the contract wrong because John McClain called Sally Reese, got Cody Carlson's home phone number back when people had home phones, and called Cody Carlson's wife in order to get the info. So Floyd told John McClain he was wrong. And Floyd goes, come to my office after practice and I'll show you the contract. And they caught Floyd in the lie when the receptionist walked into the office with John McClain standing there and said, hey, Floyd, I printed out this new Cody Carlson contract for you so that he could show John McClain that John McClain was wrong when, in fact, John McClain was right. That's what it used to be, where these local beat guys were like FBI investigators. Again, they're not trying to arrest you. They just want to get the facts. Well, now we've got 6 FBI investigators who are trying to cover all 32 teams at one time. And in order to do that, they can only talk to 1 or 2 people there. And in order to do that, they have to kind of say what these people want them to say, or else they won't talk to them. They'll talk to one of the other FBI agents who will tell them what they want to hear. So the days of how it used to be, those days are over. And let's let this be the moment where we decided, okay, now we understand how it works. I think it's that simple. I thought an example this morning of insider culture being a show was that they immediately started talking, should the Dallas Cowboys trade up? The Dallas Cowboys have not traded up in the first round of the draft since 2012. Jerry doesn't do that. That's like when Dianna Russini, of all people, put out there after Max Crosby got traded to the Ravens before the Ravens said no thank you. She said, oh, Dallas was so close, but Dallas just couldn't get the deal done. Uh-huh. Yeah, that's what Dallas wants you to think. Dallas didn't get the deal done because Dallas is cheap. Dallas didn't want to pay. Jerry loves bragging about finishing second in free agency and trades because when Max Crosby did become available again, the Cowboys were like, no, we got Rashawn Gary. Uh-huh. I'll never forget when Dianna put that out there. And it was like a Friday night, and I'm like, oh, my God. Hey, congratulations to the Cowboys. They finished second. Mel Kiper has them trading up. Let's break it all down. Okay. The second thing today is about Vrabelgate and the fact that Vrabelgate will not go away. And I, even as one of the chief pushers of Vrabelgate, even I'm surprised how long this story has lasted. I can't totally explain why this is. I can just tell you that I think this is the fact. This story's not going away until Mike Vrabel addresses it. And while it makes the most sense for Mike Vrabel to address it, while it makes the most sense for Mike Vrabel to get out in front and address it, I just don't know if Vrabel can do it. I just don't know if he has it in him. Truth be told, I think he should address it probably today. It's a Friday. You address it. Take your medicine. It'll be uncomfortable. I don't know what you're going to say, but you address it, you get it over with, and we move on to the draft. Would have been better if he did this last weekend with the Masters over the weekend, but hey, the NBA playoffs are starting. The Celtics are in the playoffs. The Boston Bruins are in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Friday's a news dump. Admit you were wrong. Say something. Whatever. Try to move on. And I don't think this is going away even if Vrabel waits until the draft next week. Even if they draft a player at 31, I still think when he sits down, if that's his plan, to just let this go and that next Thursday night he'll sit down after they've drafted Casey Concepcion and he's going to get Casey Concepcion questions. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to ask real questions about what happened with Vrabel and Dianna. And I can't explain why it is such a big deal. I mean, I get it. It's a scandal. It involves sex. Vrabel is a very popular guy. Dianna was a very visible insider. And it looks like they both lied. But even I'm shocked that this has become such a big deal. And I think I've just realized this story's not going away until the star of the story, Mike Vrabel, speaks on it. And I have no idea what he's going to say. I just know this from 6 years of covering Mike Vrabel. Accountability is not his thing. It never was, and it's never going to be. So I don't know what he's going to say. But I know it's going to be like that statement he made to the New York Post that was, this is beneath me. We need a little accountability there, Mike. And I was listening to the Felger and Maz program in Boston yesterday. They talked about a podcast. It's called Moment Live. It's definitely a woman-based podcast. They had on this PR expert, Molly McPherson. And you got to hear what she said about the Vrabel Russini comments. And she is a veteran PR person. So she's not thinking about, oh my God, Vrabel's spouse, what's going to happen? Oh my God, the football team. She's looking at this through the lens of, Okay, if I'm the PR person here advising them what to do, here was her take on how Vrabel and Russini have completely fucked this up.
So that's when it really falls apart. And then probably got a lot of pressure from the New England Patriots, from Kraft. And he came out with the statement, and he did when I hear it, I go, ugh, it's when he had to demean people for thinking it's even a story. It's laughable. When anybody does that, they're showing contempt. And whenever there's contempt in a official response, I always think, there's something there. So, right.
Okay. So I heard that. And you want to know what this reminded me of? Do you guys remember when Vrabel and I got into it? So Vrabel goes to Foxborough in 2023. He's the head coach of the Titans. He goes to Foxborough on the bye week, and he's honored into the Patriots Hall of Fame. And he gets up and he gives a speech, and he tells all the people there, Patriot fans, be appreciative of this organization because I've been a lot of places and it's not like this everywhere else. And I heard that, and my Vrabelese detector went up, and I said, oh, shit. So the Titans didn't play. It was a bye week. The following Monday at 2 o'clock, 2:30, which is 30 minutes into my program at the time, I said to Ian Safar, the producer, I go, Ian, am I reading too much into this? I think that's a shot at the Titans. Vrabel has been New England, Pittsburgh, Ohio State, Houston, Tennessee. That's it. Now he's been to Cleveland and back to New England, but that's it at that point. Well, when he talks about how Patriot fans need to be happy about the culture they have there in New England and about the organization they have, don't take it for granted. He's not talking about the Patriots, so cross them off the list. I have a hard time believing that Ohio State isn't a well-respected place in the mind of Mike Vrabel. Take them off the list. The Steelers? We're going to say, hey, it's not like this in Pittsburgh. One of the finest organizations in the history of the NFL, which leaves you in the Texans. And so I said on my show, I go, am I reading too much into this? But I feel like Vrabel took a shot at the Titans. And the next day, at his press conference, they traded Kevin Byard like 20 minutes later, and that became the big story of the day. But at the press conference the next day, Gentry asked the Tennessean, asked about those comments. Vrabel, and it's clear he had heard what I had said, turned it around on me. This was the interaction. And again, let's go back to this Molly McPherson cut where she read into Vrabel's statement to the New York Post, where Vrabel said it was laughable, and she said, as a PR person, that's a tell there's something there. This was Vrabel in 2023.
Mike, you made a comment during all that that's kind of getting parsed here, talking about...
Who's parsing it, Gentry?
I'm parsing it.
Well, then ask the question, Jared.
Question? When you said that other organizations don't do things as well as the Patriots, and that because you've been there, were you referring to this organization?
They've won 6 Super Bowls. They won 6 Super Bowls in 20 years. That's what I was alluding to. You know what I mean? I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's just extremely, a lot of success. And, and I guess just probably having talked to, Bill and, Mr. Kraft and the coaches I know they're on staff, I guess that was just my way of, bringing them good luck on Sunday. No, I mean, just the amount of success that they had there, that was the whole message was just for myself and the former players and everything, just to not take things for granted. Just the because I got traded myself and then went to a team that went 6-10, and it was like where you're just trying to find ways to win other than knowing that you're going to win when you show up. It was my whole intent of saying that they've had it pretty good there for 20 years, 6 Super Bowls and however many else they went to. That was it, Jared. So appreciate you. You'll never think like me, Jared. We're nothing alike. So I'm not. I'm the dumbest person in here. I promise you. I guarantee you I'm the dumbest person in here. but we will never think alike in anything that we do. So if you ever want to think how I'm thinking, just think the opposite. think like a dude, think like an athlete, think like a grown man, and then you'll think how I'm thinking.
Okay, so I go back to what that PR woman said, where she's like, once I saw in Vrabel's statement, and he said in the statement that this is laughable, he was dismissive of it, I thought, oh, there's something there. That's how I felt when Vrabel turned that around on me. You know, there were a lot of people when that happened that were like, oh, Vrabel schooled you. And I didn't feel that way. When Vrabel was saying that to me, I was smiling because in my head, I was thinking, oh my God, this is fucking great for the radio. Because now people are like, well, I got to tune in at 2:00 to hear what he has to say about it. I don't give a shit if Mike Vrabel likes me or not. I never gave a shit if Mike Vrabel liked me or not. I say this because that's who Vrabel is. All Vrabel had to do in that instance, again, let's play this cut again. Go back to 2023. Vrabel gets up there, takes his pants off for Robert Kraft in his Hall of Fame speech, takes a backhanded shot at the Titans. I bring it up. This is a day and a half later. Gentry, ask the question again, please.
Mike, you made a comment during all that that's kind of getting parsed here, talking about
Who's parsing it, Gentry? Well, then ask the question, Jared.
Question: when you said that other organizations don't do things as well as the Patriots, and that you know because you've been there, were you referring to this organization?
They've won 6 Super.
Hey, all he has to say, and clearly he knew it was me that said it, and I'm not even upset about it. All Vrabel has to say in that moment is, no, I wasn't taking a shot here at the Titans. I think, you know, what Amy and Kenneth and Barclay have given us, and Ran and I mean, every day we strive to be what we had in New England when I was there. And that's why we won 3 Super Bowls and they've won 3 more. So, no, it wasn't a shot here at Amy or the team or the organization. It's about us aspiring to be what we were in New England, and I think we can be. That's all he's got to say. It's over. It's done with, but he can't do it. He can't do it. Instead, it comes into this 3-minute word salad, which ends with basically, fuck you, Jared. To which, again, I'm like, okay. But that's the exact same with that comment to the New York Post. That's why people are like, Vrabel has to speak on it. I'm like, he's not going to help himself if he does, because he can't be accountable. I've said this 100 times. Mike Vrabel is a good coach, but his Achilles heel, and it was a problem when he was here in Tennessee, is that when things don't go well, Mike Vrabel doesn't stand up and put his hand in the air. The closest he comes to that is saying, got to play better, got to coach better. That's it. And we know he doesn't mean it. But as far as looking in the mirror and saying, I have to be better, he can't do that. Tom Landry one time broke down in tears in the Dallas Cowboys locker room, and he told those players, I am letting you down. I am failing you as a coach. Vrabel can't do that. So when you're expecting Vrabel to get up there and to be accountable and take responsibility for what happened, he's not going to do it because he can't do it. And I've got 6 years of watching him coach to tell you he can't do it. So I'm just telling you, I when it comes to Vrabel, like, I don't think he could do it. Which takes me to my final thing. So I reached out to ChatGPT. And I said, okay, you are, and when I do all my show grids, I put it into ChatGPT every day. So this one ChatGPT thread has every show topic and everything that we've done going all the way back to like the beginning of October. So it understands pretty much all of the context. And I said, let's make a plan for Mike Vrabel. You are the PR person that has been brought in to help save Mike Vrabel. what would you do? And so I asked ChatGPT, I said, you are Vrabel's PR crisis manager. Give me your advice. And I actually think this ended up being like a 9-part plan. Number 1, shrink the story. Don't feed it. Don't fight it. Take control early. Don't create new headlines. Show composure and move the focus back to football. Do a short, controlled press conference, 8 to 10 minutes max. Tuesday or Wednesday, address it one time. Set the tone before draft media arrives. Do not let it linger into draft night. The statement that ChatGPT says Mike Vrabel needs to make, quote, in fact, we have it right here. This is the statement that AI says Mike Vrabel has to make when he gets up there to address this.
I understand the interest, but I'm not getting into personal matters. Nothing affects our team. My focus is the draft.
Okay. So that's what Vrabel has to say. Delivery. ChatGPT says how Vrabel says it matters more than what he says. He needs to be calm. He needs to be serious, not defensive, no sarcasm, no eye rolling. What he should not do: deny, attack back, joke about it, or over-explain. I think that's probably a good call. The second part of the plan. So again, what they're asking Vrabel to do, what this is telling Vrabel to do is get up there, be accountable, be quick, show composure, don't laugh about it, don't talk shit, don't do the things that you do. I don't know if Vrabel can do that. The second part of the plan: do not deny specifics, do not attack the media, do not joke about it, do not over-explain. When it comes to answers on the follow-ups, AI says, same answer every time. Quote, like I said, I'm focused on the team and the draft. Repeat, don't expand. Expect 1 to 2 questions on draft night, end it quickly, and give the media something else to cover. So this is the example of Vrabel handling a follow-up question, what the follow-up question may be, and how Vrabel should handle it on draft night.
Hey, Mike, reporter McSourceface from the JNN Jared News Network. Mike, I know you already have had a comment about this, but I do want to ask you specifically. You said last week to Page 6 that this story was laughable. Since then, Dianna has lost her job. So I wonder if at this point you still consider this laughable or if it is now more serious.
Like I said, I'm focused on the team and the draft.
The end. Reporting McSourceface. Take that. The PR crisis says expect 1 to 2 questions, end it quickly. Again, my focus is on the draft. Then this says that PR, this is what PR should do, not Vrabel, but back channel control, say, hey, he addressed it, nothing further, push the media towards football. This one I find interesting at the end. Flood the zone. Talk draft strategy, talk roster, talk vision. Give the media something else to cover. I almost wonder if Mike Vrabel should have a press conference on Tuesday or Wednesday ahead of the draft to basically say, I want to get this out of the way and drop that first line.
I understand the interest, but I'm not getting into personal matters. Nothing affects our team. My focus is the draft.
Okay. I also wonder if Vrabel should hint publicly about A.J. Brown. And what I mean by that is, and we know these guys plant questions. When Vrabel was the coach of the Titans and they would get their asses kicked and Kaharski would start asking tough questions, in the press conference, Vrabel would be like, Jimmy, you got any questions to ask? Looking at team reporter Jim Wyatt. Because again, Vrabel can't be accountable. So he needs the guy in the crowd to help him out. Which I could just tell you, never saw Jim Wyatt's face when Vrabel did this. But I know Jim Wyatt's heart. And I can only imagine how Jim Wyatt felt when they would get their asses kicked by Tampa and Vrabel would be all pissed off at the podium. Paul would be talking and be like, Jimmy, you got a question? You work for me, Jim. I can just see Jim Wyatt's heart sinking in his stomach like a Southwest Airlines commercial. Jim wanted to get away, but he couldn't. So we had to ask a question. Coach, what'd you think of the defense? What'd you think of the Vandy football game yesterday, Coach? I wonder if you're the Patriots. Do you have Vrabel do a press conference, say what he's going to say, and then get up there and say, look, have somebody in the crowd plan a question about AJ? Hey, Mike, there's been a lot of speculation about AJ Brown. I'm just kind of wondering, are you guys still thinking that's going to be a post-June 1 situation? What do you think about that? Well, I can't talk specifically. This is how you avoid tampering. I can't talk specifically about an individual player. But what I guess I'll say is I think that Elliott and the front office have done a fabulous job to position us so that whether we need to make a move on Thursday night or whether we need to make a move after the draft to acquire a veteran receiver, we're in position to be able to do that. Which is the way of saying, yeah, we're going to go trade for A.J. Brown. And then everybody's going to start talking about that. But in order for Vrabel to do it, Vrabel has to meet with the media. And again, I'm not sure Vrabel will do it. For whatever that's worth. But that is the plan. That AI believes Mike Vrabel needs to adapt. Should Vrabel do that? Yes. Will Vrabel do that? Well, you guys tell me. And then finally, when it comes to Dianna, there is one thing that I saw yesterday, and it is not the Chrissy Freud stuff. I don't really have an opinion on that. I mean, I don't know Chrissy Freud. We've talked like once or twice. I don't really know her. I don't have an opinion on that. I do know people who do know her, and I follow her on Twitter. She follows me, and some of her shit is out there. But I think USA Today, by terminating her contract with them or whatever it was, made it a story when it didn't need to be a story. That's my take on that. The thing I can't get over, this was in the New York Post, and the headline got me to click. Friend of Dianna Russini talks about how Dianna is handling the situation or whatever. And it's Stugotz. Now, again, kind of like Chrissy Freud. I don't know Stugotz. I've talked to Stugotz on a couple of occasions. Stugotz has been very nice to me. I like Stugotz. Stugotz very close with Dianna. Stugotz said, and this is according to the New York Post, quote, the radio host further defended Russini, who was the Athletic's senior NFL insider since 2023, by noting, quote, that the entire industry is littered with conflicts of interest. Every single take that anyone makes is littered in conflict of interest. I don't want to hear about it, Stugotz added. Stop. Stugotz. Number one, he's not even questioning whether or not Dianna's story is still true. This is not, hey, the defense of Dianna is she was there with 5 other girls going hiking. It's the first ever girls trip in the history of girls trips that didn't end up with pictures all over every social media. The older ladies, the meemaws, they go to Facebook. The younger ladies, they probably go to Twitter. If there's a really younger lady, like 24 years old, that's friends with Dianna on the hiking trip, she goes to Snapchat. Dianna, she's more in the sports realm. She probably goes to Twitter with that. So this is the first girls trip in the history of girls trips that had no pictures. Stugotz is not even claiming that there was nothing wrong. That no, Dianna was hiking. So you're admitting Dianna lied, which is the first thing. The second thing is everybody has a conflict of interest. Is not a defense for your conflict of interest. Again, everybody cheating on their taxes is not a defense if you cheat on your taxes. Everybody pays the players in college sports. Now it's legal. But before it used to not be legal. When somebody would get caught, they'd say, well, everybody else is doing it. And I'd say, no, I don't know. that every other school in America has an assistant coach ordering up prostitutes to come to the dorm for recruits who are under the age of 18. No, I don't think everybody else is doing it. But I just hate that excuse. I just hate it. Well, everybody else is doing it. I don't give a fuck. What are you doing? So I got to get that off my chest. And again, I like Stugotz from what little I know of him. And then finally, we got to hit on this. So Scott Zolak is the former Patriots quarterback who is now, he does the midday show on 98.5 The Sports Hub in Boston, and he calls the games on the radio. He's the color analyst of the Patriots, and he will not touch this story with a 10-foot pole. And finally, on yesterday's Bertrand and Zolak, Scott Zolak stepped up to the plate and told everybody why he won't talk about this, which is the number one story in all of sports in America.
Why is Zoe uncomfortable with the Vrabel topic?
I'm not uncomfortable with the Vrabel. I'm not going to comment on it.
I think that's his question. Why are you not commenting on it?
Why?
I think he just...
I work with Mike during the football season, and multiple times in the offseason, I do things with Mike. And I know Mike. And Mike and I have a good back-and-forth working relationship. I know Mike's wife. She's been in some of the meetings. I know Mike's two sons. I've met them. I've hung out with them during the football season. I know Dianna Russini. I know the people involved. And I'm in no position to comment on anything that happened between these two, because it does me no good.
Can you remember the tallest man you've ever seen?
I like my jobs. I like working here. I like working with the Patriots. I like doing games. I like doing TV with them. I like being with the team. For me to sit there and cast stones at this guy would not do me great things. So there's your answer in a nutshell.
Okay. I'll give Scott Zolak credit. He admitted what a lot of people won't, which is the reason I'm not going to talk about this is because I like calling the games. I like working for the team. I like being friends with the coach. Here's what I don't like, though. To me, if you're going to really do this, if you're going to really be a talk show host, you can't be bought and paid for by the team. And that happens far too often. I am okay with conflicts of interest like that when they are addressed on the front end. But now my response to Scott Zolak is anything positive that he says about the Patriots, I would say, well, of course he's going to say that. Because he just told you. His opinion, his feelings can be bought and paid for. And that's fine. I mean, if the money's right, I think my opinions could be bought and paid for. Now, I tell you that they're bought and paid for, but sure, why not? But you can't really do the job of a talk show host if you're covering for a team. And that happens far too often across the country. And I hear stuff like that, and I'm like, well, as long as the audience knows that he's in the bag for the team, that's why he's doing it. But then I'm like, why are we putting people who are in the bag for the team on the radio? It's like when I used to have to interview Hal Gill once a week and talk Predators. And I like Hal Gill. And I like the Predators. But I hated having to talk to Hal once a week because I knew it was going to be me and Hal getting into it about how Hal, for the 1,000th time, is going to say the goalie doesn't stink when all the evidence is that the goalie stinks. Let's get to some of your reaction quickly because, again, like I said, it's a Friday show, and I got into a lot today on the program. One person says, saw other hosts using your clip. Thank you, James. Yes, our report got picked up pretty much everywhere. One person says, Jared, we need you in Philly. Don't think so. Though I think I could do it. Like, I think I could be in Philadelphia and do Philadelphia radio and talk shit and overreact to every loss the Eagles have and everything else. I can boo Santa. I can do all of that. I don't know if I want to move to Philadelphia. And that's not a knock on Philly. I've been to Philly a couple of times. It's cold and it's far away from my family. So I'm not sure I would do that. One person brings up the Chrissy Freud thing and says, Chrissy Freud hinting that Russini attempted to mentor or recruit Freud to be an accommodating gal insider like Russini herself. Okay, that is not what happened. And I don't know for a fact. I just feel pretty certain about this. Dianna Russini probably didn't know who Chrissy Freud was until yesterday, if I'm just being completely honest. I will say this. I have seen Dianna, and I want to be very careful about how I say this because this is going to involve a story that's not the story. I have seen Dianna attempt to connect with coworkers who are also in the same realm as she is. In my experience, watching that from afar, Dianna has been nothing but respectful and helpful of those people that she has worked with, that Dianna has, I don't want to say taken under her wing, but the way I would say it to Caroline is, she tried to be girlfriends with her. They worked together, and my experience of watching that from afar, Dianna has been very professional in that regard. One person says, listen to the guys that move from sports to politics, 100% bullshit artists. I think so. I mean, I think some of these people believe some of the crazy stuff they say, just like I think that people like me believe the crazy stuff they say. One person says, Jared needs to clean up his look and start accepting some offers to do national media hits. He'll be sitting across from Greeny on Get Up, giving his hot takes on LeBron's future in no time. I don't know. I mean, I do Sirius XM all the time, and I love doing Sirius XM. I love being able to say, I'm filling in for Stephen A. Smith today when those moments arise. I don't know. I don't know, what the future of national media is. I don't know what the future of my career is. I love doing this show. I don't ever see this 1 hour show going away. No matter what I do going forward, I'm not sure I ever see this podcast that I own with these subscribers. Thank you to all of you. Like and subscribe. I'm not sure I see that going away. The cleaning up the look, I definitely think I need to lose some weight. And I'm good at working out. I just eat too much shit. And it's as simple as that. And I will say this, boy, was I doing well, working out, eating right, losing weight, and then Caroline's wedding hit, and I ate a gummy and had 3 slices of cake. So make of that what you will. But I do think there is something that. One person says, Jared is going to do Vrabel and Diana's wedding. One person says, Vrabel is the master of no fault. Vrabel is the least accountable person I know. And that is saying something. Because I know a lot of people who are not accountable. Well, you know what? I wouldn't say he's the most unaccountable. I think I used to work with somebody who might be the laziest and most unaccountable person I've ever worked with. And the proof is in the pudding, both literally and figuratively, when it comes to this person's stupidity and laziness and lack of accountability. And they're right up there with Vrabel. I'll put that. That's where I'll take that one. One person says, Jared comments on Rand's interview today on 104.5. What did Rand say? I did not hear Rand on 104.5. Here's what I want to know. Did Rand hide behind his NDA? Did they ask him about CJ Stroud and Dianna? If they didn't, then I don't care. If they did, then yes. Then that I do care. One person says, Stillman, when are we getting the payment email for draft night? Got a gummy with your name on it, bud. So I heard Braden talking about this. And again, if you want to be there next Thursday night, ML Rose, East Nashville, I believe it's $40, all you can eat, all you can drink. We'll have a live stream show. I'll be there. Braden will be there. Door prizes, etc. I heard Braden talking about this. Email incrowd@sinkersbeverages.com. I heard Braden talking about this. They will take your payment at the door. So you come in, tap your card, $40, all you can eat, all you can drink. Let's get to drafting on Thursday night. And if you got a gummy with my name on it, I'm probably not going to be able to take it because I drive and I do not take gummies and drive. We'll never, ever, ever do that. One person says Rand was taking credit for everything. Taking credit for what? Everything he did was bad. The best move he made as general manager of the Titans was trading for Ernest Jones. The second best move he made was trading Ernest Jones for a 4th-round pick, which ended up being Gunnar Helm. So it's the weekend. I don't want to get my blood boiling, but I may have to go back and listen to that. Okay, that's it for us. Like and subscribe. We are out of here, Stillman and Company. Hopefully no breaking news stories over the weekend. Hopefully everybody has a good weekend. We will see you all, Stillman and Company. Like sand through the hourglass, so do the days of our Vrabel. Stillman and Company, 440 Sports.